I think it's a crane fly. Yeah.
Cool.
So what we'll do with him is give him to Christina, and she will actually take tissue samples and test if he has mercury in his system to see whether or not he's been sequestering any runoff from the road.
Ah, that's so cool.
That's gross and exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
Good job.
These two rocks, I lifted those up. So then look around
And then it was like, there's three things, catch one, right? Yeah, I'm a nerd. I have this like, it's called Aquabug. It's literally a like app that's a dichotomous key.
Nice.
But it works. It gets you to what you need. And I will say, during certain times of the summer, this stream can get really low because, as you know, we've had a lot of rain and it's not that deep. And so when the water is really low, unlike the amphibians, mussels really can't get out. And so you don't necessarily see them in streams that are this small because it does dry up sometimes. They're what we call ephemeral.
There is something about the underdog, about these species that just don't have a voice. They're not as charismatic. They're not the rhino on a poster or a Save the Elephant campaign, but they are so important to all of us. Mussels, for example, they filter water, and I like clean water. I imagine everyone else likes clean water, and so we need them.
Didn't find them. I'll try again next week.
I started working with freshwater mussels because of a bat conversation. I was at a bat meeting and I was talking with friends from the Wildlife Resources Commission in the state, and they were saying that mussels are a big initiative moving forward because of water quality. And I talked to our aquarium staff and we thought, we can do this. I mean, they're mussels. It's not like we're trying to take a whale and put it in our building. We can totally do this. And so the conversation just kept going, and we then realized, hey, we are totally capable of taking this on.
It's always a good sign. It's like one of your fears that you're going to pick it up and it's just going to and then you go, oh, no, that's not good. Yep.
The first struggle is the obvious. Everyone laughed when I said we're doing mussels. And it's like, really? Of all the things in the world, that's what we're doing? So there was the human part that I had to overcome, getting everyone on board with it. And then when it comes to taking care of them, it was really understanding the life support system and how it works. It was just new to me. I'm not an aquarist and definitely not a plumber. So learning how to do all this plumbing and where the water comes from in the building, where it goes, it was challenging. And I think the hardest part for me was just the terminology. And you talk to these aquarists who do this for a living and they're like, oh, you need a bigger manifold. And you're like, note to self, Google manifold. It's like, okay, cool. So just figuring my way around all the stuff that aquarists take for granted because they do it every day.
The game now is to fill the tank and to not overflow any of the tanks, which include the tank up there and the tank on the bottom. So that's where it's fun, is that you find yourself watching one tank and then all of a sudden it's like, ah, as the other one starts to get to the top. So I'm gonna let that drain down a little before I kick the pump on to refill it. Otherwise we'll flood the whole room. And I wish I could tell you this all hypothetically, but I've done it, so. So I know it can happen. My only saving grace, I'm like, it's fresh water. At least it's clean. It wasn't salt water. Yeah. Could have been worse.
They have their system back there and they have all of their chemicals and their calibrations, and here I come with my one bottle from my one tank, trying to not create chaos. I understood certain things, like I understood cycling and water cycles and what nitrate and pH and all of that meant. But then my first time when I had to walk behind the aquarium and the aquarist said, well, let us show you the plumbing. I was so scared to touch anything because I thought, I'm gonna hit something, I'm gonna flood the building, it's gonna be bad. But it was very humbling because it was starting over, because I didn't know anything about mussels.
Okay. Well, we're doing a 30% water change anyway, so it'll probably be good. But I figured, it's so funny, you can tell when like their pH is off, because I always say they have their fanny in the air, which is what we tell my daughter. Yep. But essentially their like siphoning side goes down and like their bum end is sticking up, and it's almost like they stick their head in the sand like an ostrich. It's like something isn't right, so I'm just going to stick my head in the sand instead of siphon.
Safety,
yeah, that's right.
Down,
exactly, tough stuff up. But there were two that were out. We found all four, which was nice. I didn't have to dig for them. So there's usually like the one you can't find. So we're going to go vacuum out some detritus now.
Enjoy.
Yeah. clean up their space. I'm like, come on guys, you're filter feeders. Get going. Filter.
People are going to continue to build, we're going to continue to grow and move forward, but we also have to be cognizant of what we're doing to the environment around us. It's always hard when progress is stopped because of something like a mussel. Like there's been highways that were supposed to go in, and suddenly the highway is a problem because there's an endangered species of mussel that's there. There's always going to be some sort of political issue. Every animal has their opponent, so it really is trying to find a way to make it applicable to people. People like to know how it impacts them. It's one of the things our species does really well, is wanting to know what's in it for me. Conservation isn't just a big program or a save the cheetah or a save the elephant type thing. It happens at all different levels, and it is not a single person. It's never just a single animal. It's always this holistic view, and always the whole ecosystem, which it usually and almost always includes humans. And so that realization that you have to make sure every part and player within that scope is affected and is impacted in order to really make a difference is really interesting and I think important. And it really takes what looks like a small idea and makes it a really big project, a really big concept. Whether it's the mussels or it's macroinvertebrates, the public can get involved to a certain extent. We can take out a mussel and let them see it. It's not going to hurt them. It's a safe thing to work with. And there's just something about once you're engaged with it and you have that hands-on moment, you really start to appreciate it more for what it is and what it does for you. And so my hope is that with the work that we do here and our ability to share it and engage the next generation, that they will remember it and they'll appreciate it and maybe even follow down that same path. And someday when they turn into scientists or conservation biologists, they can look back and say, you know, it all started when I flipped a rock at the Science Center and found my first crayfish, or I went into the stream and picked up my first freshwater mussel, and they just had that aha moment where it clicks and they realize this is what they want to do. So that's why we do what we do.